everyone, welcome back to the Your Tango YouTube channel. I'm your host Elfie, and today we are getting into some more celebrity astrology. This one is very interesting because we have a triple compatibility about to go down. We are covering the Vanderpump drama between Ariana, Raquel, and Tom. So, who is more compatible with who? We're not going to get too into the drama, but long story short, Ariana and Tom were together for about 7-8 years when it was revealed Tom was having an affair with Raquel for about 7-8 months. So, who's the bad guy here? Who is the victim? Maybe those questions are irrelevant, but we are getting into the stars. We are figuring out who is more compatible with Tom. We are going to be starting out with Ariana Madix. She is a bartender on the Vanderpump show. She is also an author. She has released an amazing book about how to make delicious cocktails. And she is first up in our astrology birth chart reading. Luckily, we have Ariana's birth time, so we get to have a full chart reading for her. Let's go. At first glance, I am seeing a lot of Cancer placements in Ariana's birth chart. We have 3 planets. Her sun, which is planet of the ego, Mars, planet of physical and sexual energy. We also have Mercury, planet of the mind and communication. These are all in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. It is the sign of empathy, of mothering, of the home. It is connecting in that roots type of connection within the water intuitiveness. Cancer is known as a sign with potentially psychic abilities because they are so tuned in intuitively to other people. They can really read into what other people are thinking and feeling. But also because of this, they're so tuned into other people, they can be perhaps a little bit critical, a little bit nagging, but it is all due with love. They have so much love to give, and honestly, dating a Cancer sun, you are going to feel more taken care of than anyone else you are ever going to date. So Cancers, shout out Cancers. Ariana is big Cancer energy with that sun, Mars, and Mercury happening there. So Cancer, big Cancer energy. We see her sun and her Mars are in opposition of Neptune. So when we see Neptune, planet of illusion and imagination, opposite the sun, planet of the ego, this always is going to give a sense of an illusionary aspect to someone's sense of self. The way she sees herself may not be totally clear. The way she even may remember things may not always be totally clear. There is a sense of maybe even a rose-colored glasses, the way she is seeing her life, the way she even sees herself. So this also has an effect on her Mars because the Mars is also an opposite to Neptune here. Mars is that physical and sexual energy. So this is a very dreamy aspect as well. This is someone who is, case in point, following their dreams to the fullest by having that opposition. But there is also, again, maybe things are not always what it seems. Maybe she is putting her energy in the wrong places that don't necessarily deserve it. She is seeing an idealistic quality to aspects of herself or things in her life, putting her energy in baskets where it does not deserve. Those eggs need to go elsewhere. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they may say. So the planet we are most excited to look at is Ariana's Venus, because she is all caught up in some love trouble right now. We have Venus in Taurus. So Venus is a planet of love and relationships. Taurus is an excellent position for Venus. It is in it for the long haul. Taurus is the sign of the bull. They are here just as Aries is the first sign right before Taurus. That is the pioneer. Taurus is the one who stays and finishes things through. The only thing about Taurus and Venus is that they can stay in relationships long after they should have left because they have such intense loyalty, such intense ability to commit. They are often not going to be the first person to jump ship. They're going to have to be pushed to an edge to actually leave their partner. So that's something very interesting to see. We also have that Venus opposite her Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of discipline and restriction. So there may be some ways where Ariana feels unlucky in love, where she feels almost that she's being punished for things she does not totally understand, where she is a good partner, she is loyal, she is there for that person. There are things and obstacles that come in her way that are forcing her to learn a different level of perhaps discernment with types of people she lets around herself, especially with that Neptune opposite that sun, opposite that Mars, that is also giving that illusionary quality that maybe that Saturn opposite Venus is awakening within her. We have Venus, planet of relationships, squaring Jupiter, which is the planet of good fortune and expansion, which that Jupiter is conjunct her rising sign, which is her outer self. So that Venus is squaring Jupiter and the rising sign. What the elf does that mean? The Jupiter is going to be that expansion. It is actually a lucky placement to have that with her rising sign, with her external self. The way she presents herself can be highly in her favor. However, there is a disruption of energy because of that square to her Venus. So a square is a 90-degree angle. That is a disruption of energy with that Venus. So there's certain ways where the way she projects herself, the way she carries herself, it may have this luck in that outer realm, but in her relationships, it can maybe cause some difficulty. It may not always lead her to the right people. So overall, I would say the most aspected planet in this chart, interestingly enough, is her Venus. And we know she is going through some love difficulties, but never fear, there is so much hope. We have an incredible chart going here. Our second reading from the Vanderpump reality TV show is Raquel. She is a server at the Vanderpump restaurant, and she is notorious in the headlines right now for having an affair with Ariana's husband. So here we are to figure out who is more compatible with Tom, the husband. And so Raquel, let's get into your chart. Raquel, we do not have your birth time. We would love it. So anyone who has Raquel's birth time, if you want to drop it in the comments below, send this to her, get her birth time somehow, because then we could really squeeze all the juice out of this lemon of drama. So Raquel's sun is in the sign of Virgo. Sun is the planet of the ego, of kind of the center of our own personal universe. And Virgo is finding essentially the spiritual in the external world. They are very stereotypically tidy, but they are particular about certain methods of ways of doing things more than they are necessarily that stereotype of tidy. Virgos are really useful. They are really good at keeping things under control, management skills. They are not necessarily the most personal people around, where they can be a little more aloof. It is an earth sign. They are extremely grounded, extremely practical people. Her moon sign, however, is in Sagittarius. And so this is going to give Raquel a level of a personality boost on that inside. The more you get to know Raquel, the funner she becomes. That moon in Sagittarius, the moon is all about your emotions, that inner world. Sagittarius is a fire sign. They are the sign of exploration, of travel, of higher learning, of just expanding yourself overall. It is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of good luck and good fortune. The moon in Sagittarius is actually a bit of an unsettling position for the moon, because that Sagittarius is always so go, 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 go. And the moon needs a comfortable, safe home to be in. The moon is all about making your roots somewhere. So even a moon in Sagittarius, if they feel emotionally threatened, they are definitely going to have a fight or flight response. There's going to be no sort of freeze. They are either going to fight or they are going to run a mile or two. There is no in between with the moon in Sagittarius. So what we are all really wondering is what is going on with Raquel's Venus. And the Venus is the planet of love and relationships. We have, and I could have guessed this, you guys, her Venus is in Scorpio. So Venus, like I said, planet of love and relationships. Scorpio is a water sign. It is one of the most intense signs of the zodiac. The Venus in Scorpio type is known to be a secretive type of lover. They have an intense devotion to one particular person, and they do not always give that to everybody else. These can be particularly vindictive types of people. This is also a sign that is not necessarily harmonious with Venus, because Venus is so about light and love and just overall a good feeling, and Scorpio is all about this darkness, the subconscious of getting to the root of what is really going on, where Venus would like to keep things easy breezy. So this is where that conflict of that energy is going to happen. So especially we have the moon exalted in Sagittarius and also exalted Venus in Scorpio. These are just going to really amp up this person's ability to deal with their emotions and deal with their relationships. And so there is just a level of intensity going on in this chart. We also have Mercury in Libra. Mercury is the planet of the mind and communication, and Libra is a sign of balance, of cooperating with other people. So even this can be a sense where if the Libra is not completely evolved, the Mercury can be impressionable on other people's opinions. I also know Raquel is significantly younger than Tom. So I don't know if there was any sort of sway going on or any sort of, I don't want to use the word manipulation because I really do not know, but this would lend to me that she is someone who is a little more easily swayed if you can really make an argument or you can really tap into her intensity, that Venus in Scorpio or that Moon in Sagittarius, where she feels like she is evolving to new bounds or finding a love that is so intense and out of this world. Those are things that she could even find rationalization in her mind, even why certain behaviors were okay. And another thing as well to keep in mind, we have actually the Venus is not terribly aspected, but what we have here, we have opposition. So we have Mars in Cancer, which Mars is your physical and sexual energy. Cancer, as we mentioned before, which Ariana had heavy Cancer placements. But Raquel's Cancer Mars, that is going to give a lot more of a passive energy to her. Though she has those intense relationship needs, she has a feisty, fiery moon, but that Mars is very passive in Cancer. It is going to be a lot more accommodating to other people. It is going to really kind of go with the flow amongst her. It's interesting because we also have that Mercury in Libra that is easy breezy. Also with that Mars easy and breezy, I could easily see this someone being manipulated in certain ways. Oh, and then the Mercury squares the Mars on top of all of this. So Cancer Mars is a little more passive. Also that Mercury Libra is a little more passive. They also square each other. So that is also leading me towards a little bit of thinking that Raquel can be taken advantage of by the right person. Now remember, a square is a 90-degree angle. This is an interruption of that energy, and this is really anywhere we have squares in our chart, this is where we are kind of trying to heal things in our karma. These are issues that we really need to take to light, and we have the power based on the rest of our birth chart to understand ways to heal and smooth out those interruptions of energy and actually utilize them as superhero tactics within our everyday lives. So this is a way, especially that Mars in Cancer can be so welcoming, so homey, that Mercury in Libra can also really intellectually understand where other people are coming from. She could really use this to be an excellent friend, an excellent mediator, someone you could really deeply trust. So I really would love to see Raquel really figure out that Mars and that Mercury energy and really utilize that for the best version of herself. Now, the one and only Tom, who is in between this love triangle completely. Let's get into his birth chart. Tom Sandoval is a bartender at Vanderpump Restaurant, and he is also in between the hot and steamy love affair between his side piece Raquel and his main squeeze, his wifey Ariana. Let us see what the stars have written for him. Let's get to it. Unfortunately, we do not have his birth time, but there's still plenty for us to uncover. Let's take a look. All right, Tom also has 3 placements in Cancer, just like Ariana. He has his Sun, his Mercury, and his Mars all in Cancer. Sun is the planet of the ego. Mercury is the planet of the mind, communication. Mars is the planet of physical and sexual energy. These are all happening in Cancer. And Ariana, his wife, also has 3 placements in Cancer. So that right off the bat is really nice compatibility. We will get to that in a second. Let's just understand his chart by himself for 1 second. So we have all of that happening in Cancer. As we mentioned before, Cancer is a water sign. It is very intuitive, connected to other people, connected to really that type of compassion, building a home, really finding that safety and that warmth in other people. It can also become disconnected when it does not feel like it is connecting with someone. And so Cancer is a very sensitive sign. This is an emotional placement for any regard. So we have the Sun in Cancer that's going to just give an emotional element to the way this person relates to their ego. Also, the Mercury, planet of the mind, is in Cancer, again, giving that emotional impact and also to that physical and sexual energy. So someone with heavy Cancer placements is going to feel disconnected, going to feel pushed away when they don't have a deep intimacy to somebody. They're going to, where in terms of a sign like Capricorn, if they're not that intimate with someone, that's really not a problem. They could actually stay in a romantic relationship because they have different other priorities. Whereas a Cancer is really about that personal energy, that personal closeness with someone. So that's just something to keep in mind. We also have that Mars in Cancer is opposite Neptune. So Mars is your physical and sexual energy, as we talked about, and Neptune is a planet of imagination and illusion. These two being opposite each other is a very interesting placement, especially because we know that Tom was cheating on his wife for 7-8 months. And so there is a certain level of Neptune in terms of a negative influence on the Mars, where it's leading to an illusion that these types of behaviors are okay, that there is some sort of rose-colored glasses he had put on about the situation itself, that he felt justified in some way. Maybe that Mars was not getting their needs met where he was. And so he told himself in this fantasy, this can all work out for him. This is not hurting anyone. That it was really, to keep a relationship, a side relationship completely secret for 7-8 months, that takes a level of a commitment to a fantasy. And we are really seeing that with the Neptune opposite Mars here. Very interesting placement. And we have Moon, the planet of emotions, and Gemini. So Gemini is a very flighty, active sign. They are interested in everything and anything, but they are not necessarily interested in it tomorrow. Geminis are all about what is there to offer. They are just information hungry, to learn, to share, to have fun. And a Gemini is the sign of the twins. They have two sides to them. Is it a two-face? Is it not? This all depends on the type of Gemini. But rest assured, Geminis always have two sides to them. So this is an interesting placement for the Moon, because the Moon really likes a stability. The Moon really likes to feel comfortable, feel safe, putting their roots down. And Gemini is almost the opposite of that. Gemini is up in the air, flying around, trying to see what is the next most exciting moment. So this is where the Moon in Gemini can be difficult to commit. A Moon in Gemini does not always understand their own feelings. Gemini is also ruled by Mercury, which is all about the planet of the mind. So this person is going to really feel their emotions through their thoughts. They might even sometimes feel like they can't even feel at all. They're just stuck in this logical processing or this information aspect of their own emotions. So there can be a level of emotional detachment from this type as well. So especially with this Mars opposite Neptune and that Moon in Gemini, this is all honestly a perfect disaster, respectfully, for someone to cheat on their wife for 8 months and not feel sorry about it or feel even justified for doing it. A lot of us would wonder, how could we feel all right with ourselves? Well, that Gemini is really a detached from those emotions. Again, it does not mean all Moon and Geminis are like this, but this can be a manifestation of this as well as with these other placements. We also have that Moon in Gemini opposite Uranus, and Uranus is the planet of originality, of marching to the beat of your own drum. This planet will bring things out of left field your way. There is a little bit of chaotic nature to Uranus, but it is all for good measure. It is all for just, in a sense, just interrupting your routine and really making you live out of the bounds. Now, when Moon is opposite Uranus, this leads to a level of interruption. We were already talking about that Moon was not grounded in its roots. Having that opposition Uranus aspect is going to really make this an emotionally chaotic person almost. This is someone you may not be able to trust totally well until they really identify these types of issues within their own personality and use them for strength in a positive way to spin this. Upon healing, this person could really be a person who can be there emotionally through any type of situation, because they know what it's like to receive things out of left field in their own selves. They can help cater to other people in that way with that opposite Moon and Uranus charge. Another thing to keep in mind is his Venus. Now, the Venus is the planet of love and relationships, and Tom has it in Leo. So Leo is a fire sign. Leo is flamboyant. Leo is all about being the star of the show. Leos are known for also being extremely charming. They are so much fun to be around, but they love to be a leader and they are a little self-absorbed. Not that that is always a bad thing, but this can also be a sign that tends, or especially a placement of Venus in Leo, this can lead a little towards the spectrum of narcissism, of using relationships as supply to fuel one's ego. And so this is something to keep in mind. Again, that is not at all with all Venus and Leos. This is just something that can happen. We also have Venus squaring Jupiter, which is a planet of good fortune and good luck. So this is going to be a way where someone is using their good luck and maybe even their good charm to not everyone else's advantage. This is someone who is really kind of in it for themselves. They may even overindulge a little bit in the good life, where they might even gamble, maybe eat a little too much, maybe drink a little too much, and they are just kind of consuming without really thinking about the way it's affecting them and the way it's affecting their relationships. So Tom, if we had your birth time, we could dive so much deeper. This is actually a really interesting chart. But we are going to move on and do the test. Who is more compatible with Tom? Is it Ariana? Is it Raquel? Well, let's start out with his wife, Ariana. So here we have the Synastry chart compatibility between Ariana Madix and her husband, Tom Sandoval. So right off the bat, we already knew that they both had 3 placements in Cancer. So we are seeing, honestly, even just from that alone, that is excellent long-term compatibility between these. Look, we have, oh, that's crazy. I didn't even realize this. The Sun, Mars, and Mercury conjunct each other's Sun, Mercury, and Mars. That is such a rare placement. That's actually fascinating that 2 people with those same placements even ended up on the same TV show together, let alone destined to find each other and be together. This is so rare. Tom, don't throw her away. I can't tell you guys how rare that is and how harmonious that is. So the suns, again, the sun is the planet of the ego. The Mercury is the planet of mind and communication, and Mars, that physical energy. These are all conjunct together. They are living in harmony in the same place in the sky. Again, that is excellent for long-term compatibility. Let's see what else we have going on here. So this is where we might have some challenges arising. We have Ariana's moon is squaring Tom's Neptune. Now, this union could be filled with illusions and disappointments. Unfortunately, they could find it difficult to maybe even understand each other on that deeper emotional level. Though their egos are synced up, their communication styles and their physical energy is synced up, the moon is having difficulties between these 2 people. This can lead to level of disagreements. They feel like they, again, can't totally understand each other. This is also an aspect that points towards unfaithfulness and lies, because the agenda in some cases may not be clear and can be misunderstood between the 2 parties in feeling that disconnect. And because they both have such heavy Cancer placements, when they feel disconnected, it is devastating to them. It is almost the end of the world. It is almost the end of the relationship. They thrive on intimacy. The moon is squared Neptune. That is an interruption of that emotional energy and perhaps a level of illusions on the other person. Now, another interesting thing, we have Ariana's Mars opposite Tom's Neptune. So her moon and her Mars are going to be opposite his Neptune. Even though their Neptunes are like in the same place, they have such crazy compatible charts. It's freaking insane. Ariana's Mars is opposite Tom's Neptune. So this is easy for this relationship to maybe even become manipulative between them, and it can be filled with times of frustration. It can even sometimes feel hard accomplishing even maybe the most basic practical task when they are together. And so this can be a difficult union that can succeed because they have all of these other harmonies. And Ariana herself actually has in her own chart, her Mars is opposite that Neptune. So this is just one thing to keep in mind, that she might even be living out that karma within herself, within this relationship, of that disconnection, of that physical energy. This can also tend towards, because that Neptune is that planet of illusions, opposite that physical energy. Again, there is a chance for unfaithfulness here. There is also a chance of dishonesty, distance between each other, and that they have to be very careful to maintain honesty, because it is very easy to slip up with that Neptunian influence. This is honestly, even we have their Pluto's conjunct. We have so many Cancer placements conjunct. We have their Uranus's almost nearly conjunct, Jupiter conjunct Saturn. On it, we have their Neptunes conjunct. So we have that compatibility between this couple. Honestly, this is one of the most compatible charts I've ever seen. And we had plenty of placements that were fundamental building blocks that just ended up crumbling. Let's see if Tom and Raquel have more compatibility and more hopes for their future together. So this is an interesting Synastry chart. So we have Raquel's Mars in Cancer, and that is going to be a nice flow with Tom's. We have his Sun and his Mercury conjuncting her Mars in Cancer. So once again, Sun is the planet of the ego, Mercury is the planet of mind and communications. These are all in the same place in the sky as her Mars. So this is going to give a lot of physical passion between the two, where maybe her physical love language just completely understands him in a way and communicates with him in a way that he was not expecting from anyone else possible. I don't know, because honestly, Ariana and Tom's Marses are also very close to each other. It's interesting, he found another woman where her Mars is also in Cancer and conjuncting very closely to his. However, we have a lot more squares going on between the personalities in general. For example, Raquel squares Tom's Sun with her Mercury. And so this is going to mean a lack of understanding between the two on a fundamental level. These two people can just frequently have disagreements. They may not even have the same intellectual interests or the same taste, and this can just result in problems relating to each other in a long-term way. We also have the moon squaring Saturn here, and that is not a placement that would be representative of a long-term relationship. This is actually typically found as it can bring disappointment when you really try to live together in a close way. This is an aspect that is going to say that one is going to be too critical of the other, and that they may even need to censor or restrict themselves when being around each other. There is not necessarily that concrete flow. However, we do have that connection again, because Raquel's Mars is right there lined up with his Mercury and his Sun. There is that physical energy flow, and I would say that's probably the most compatible part of their birth charts, period. Otherwise, we don't have too much other compatibility going on. We have the Moon and Neptune conjunct here, but that can also lead to levels of illusion or things not even what they seem, that you may think you're emotionally in love with the fantasy of someone, but not actually grounded in any sort of reality. And so Saturn is a planet of discipline and restriction. Uranus is a planet of originality and thinking outside of the box. So we're going to have a discipline and that originality at a disruptive angle. This is an interruption of energy. This is going to be challenging in terms of their perspectives, where one wants a little more control, a little more discipline, the other wants a little more freedom, a little more ability to just explore things. And so they're not always on that same type of timing with restriction and freedom. We also have Raquel and Tom. The moon is opposite the other one's lunar node. So this is a strong but difficult connection. They can actually encourage each other's bad habits and to enable each other in ways that they might be better off without each other. So if we are taking really a serious look at the compatibility of this chart, these are two people that are physically compatible but don't necessarily have a lot of other components to fall back on. So honestly, it may make a lot of sense in Tom's own skewed way of thinking that this relationship is most successful as a secret affair. Now, unfortunately, it came to the detriment of his incredible connection with Ariana, which these are two of the most compatible charts I've ever seen. Tom, you have a lot of making up to do, especially Ariana. She is big Cancer energy. You need to restore that intimacy with her. Do not let her go. It is going to be really rare to find someone who understands you more than Ariana. At least the stars say so. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I am dying to hear what anyone else thinks of this drama. Who do you think is more compatible, even with the stars, without the stars? I would love to know. Drop some comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm Elfie, and this was Your Tango. We'll see you next time.